So thank you, Eric Roux, for being on my podcast today, the Mindful Conversationalist. And we are so happy to have you here. Just to let our listeners know that you are an interfaith activist. You're also an advocate for freedom of religion and belief and a faith leader. And you have years of experience and dedication to fostering global religious discussion and advancing peace-building goals. So we are so excited to have you here with us today to have a conversation. And I would love for you to share with us your life journey and purpose that led you to being involved in the interfaith space with freedom of religion and belief, and in the interfaith space as well.
Okay, thank you. I mean, my pleasure to be here with you. So you want me to share my journey. As I'm not so young now, it might be a long journey, but I will try to make it short. So I started, let's start at the beginning. So I was born in 1972. I was born in a family which was more or less agnostic, very scientific, and not very interested in spiritual matters. But I have always been interested in spiritual matters. I've studied many religions when I was a kid, then a young person. And when I was 20, I found out Scientology as being my own religion. And I rapidly integrated the clergy of the Church of Scientology in Paris, France. I'm French. And I, for a long time, I've been having a position in the church, but for internal matters. I was a deputy director of a big church that we had in Paris. So I was making sure the community was served and anything which was internal. But that was difficult times in France at this time for Scientology. And we had a lot of attacks and problems and government retaliation on many things. We had like police coming into our churches. We had bomb attacks in some of our churches. We had media campaigns against Scientology as being a new religion. And that was, as I said, difficult times. So I think more than 15 years after having internal positions and seeing some of my best friends who were good people being attacked and prosecuted for their religion, I decided I wanted to do something about it. So my first external position was in 2009, and my purpose was to defend my community, to defend my fellow Scientologists. And for this, I needed to learn what was freedom of religion, because that was a problem of freedom of religion. And honestly, I did not know a lot about it. You know, I was more interested in the religion itself than the external aspect. So I met with many people, you know, whether lawyers specialized in religious freedom or activists or even people from other religions. And rapidly I realized that, of course, it was not only Scientology. Freedom of religion was something that was violated for many religions, and not only in France, but all over the world. And I traveled in countries, even European countries, where Scientology was completely accepted. So I would meet with people in governments. They would invite me like a genuine religious leader. And so that changed my point of view, you know, like I can be really accepted. But these people in other countries, they would discriminate against other religions. So I was wondering, what is the point? You know, is the problem Scientology? Is the problem religion? And I realized that, in fact, in the governments or in the people who are having troubles with accepting religions, it's not always that they are bad people. Most of the time, they are ignorant. They would be ignorant of what is religion, what is a specific religion, what is religion in general for people, you know, people living with faith, You need to understand why and how important it is for them. And moreover, they were very ignorant of what is freedom of religion and why we need to have freedom of religion. For many people, they don't understand the concept. Either they are not religious and they don't understand why there should be so much emphasis on freedom of religion, or they are from a particular religion and they don't understand that if they don't defend freedom of religion for all, at the end, they will be the one targeted and they will be the one who will have problems. So that is the beginning of my journey. And then I started advocating not only for my community, but for any community in the world having troubles with their freedom of religion. And I also realized that you cannot do it by yourself. You need to engage other people. And the more you are, and the more you agree on the fundamental principle, which is we don't have to agree on our own theology. We just have to agree on freedom of religion or belief and what it entails, meaning it also protects the right to not have a religion. It protects, and then realizing that I had a specific concept for advocating, which was either we advocate together for all, or there will be no freedom of religion. And so that has been my journey. I created some organizations. One is the European Interreligious Forum for Religious Freedom, with people it's faith leaders from many religions working together for freedom of religion for all. I created and co-founded the Forbes Roundtable Brussels EU. Now I live in Brussels, which is not an organization. It's a safe space for people to meet. More than 100 organizations, NGOs, or governmental organizations have met there and discussed problem of freedom of religion. And I also worked a lot in Interfaith because I believe that when you put people from different religions together, that does a lot of good for the world because they start understanding each other, and that resolves a lot of conflicts. And then I worked with an organization called United Religions Initiative, which is certainly the largest grassroots interfaith organizations in the world. And recently I became the chair of the Global Council of United Religions Initiative, which is called URI. Okay, I hope that's too long.
Yes, no, thank you so much. It's quite a journey. I mean, it's great to understand how it all unfolded from where you started off to where you are now. Tell me, before we go into the organizations, just to hear a bit of the work you're doing in them, you mentioned some concepts which I want our listeners to understand, right? Like freedom of religion and belief. What is it actually? And do you see it as an independent concept, or it is a codependent concept in relation to religion? So just for our listeners to understand what it's about.
Yeah. Okay. Very large topic, but to make it simple, everyone has a right to have his own religion or not have a religion. Everyone has a right to his own beliefs. But why do we say beliefs? Because some people have spiritual views and they don't want to see it as religious, so it's beliefs, and you have the right to have your own beliefs, even if you don't portray it as a religious belief. You have the right to be agnostic. You have the right to be atheist. You have the right to be Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Scientologist, Sikh, whatever. And the right to believe is nobody can do anything against it. Of course, in the practice, if your belief means that you believe that you need to kill people, that can be restricted. I don't know many religions that believe that. I know people believing that, but it's not really religious. So, but yet that can be restricted, but the restrictions needs to be very narrow and to the point. In general, let's say that You have the right to your own religions, to your own practice, and to your own beliefs, and to your own view of what is life. The concept needs to be understood like this. Why did I put the emphasis on the fact that it is either for all or it's for nobody? Let's take an example. Let's say you live in a country where your own religion, which is religion A, whatever it is well accepted, and you have the right to practice. So you would say, well, there is freedom of religion in my country because I have the right to practice my religion. But in your country, religion B is not accepted. But for you, it's not a problem, you think, because you have the right to practice, so there is at least some freedom of religion. But that's not even true. Because if, as I said, freedom of religion includes the fact that you can also change religion. That's your own freedom, So in your country, you cannot go from religion A to religion B because religion B is not accepted. So you, as an individual, even if your religion you can practice, you don't have freedom of religion because they don't allow you to change your religion from A to B. So that's something you need to understand. Your own freedom needs to be full or it does not exist. And the other thing is, one day, if you accept that religion A is accepted and not religion B, then you never know when the government will change, when things will change. It may be the opposite, and it might be your religion A which will have troubles. So you need to understand this. You need also to understand that for people, religion is very important. It is the way you shape your life. It is the way you view your life. It's more important than money. It's more important than any material thing because you live your life through your beliefs. Even if you are an atheist, you live your life through atheism. You live your life through the way you see the world. And religion is the way you, as a being, as a spiritual being, as with your heart, with your mind, with everything, you will shape your life and see the world. So it is maybe the most core element in the life of someone. And when you attack the religion of someone, you attack him in his core spiritual being. So it's very touchy, and it's very important to respect the religious beliefs and spiritual beliefs and beliefs of the people. Now, is it independent or codependent? I mean, it can only be codependent. Because of what I said, you see your life, you live your life through religion. So it goes with everything. Freedom of expression, freedom of speech, it goes with it. If you have freedom of religion, you can express your beliefs. So it is freedom of expression. It is freedom of speech. Then the right, human rights starts with human dignity. If you read the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it speaks about dignity, human dignity. Treating people with respect regarding their religion is treating people as human beings and with dignity. As soon as you start discriminating against, you deny the dignity. You deny, at the end, it's dehumanization of people when you do not accept their religious belief or their spiritual beliefs. So we could go to any human rights and see that there is a connection between freedom of religion. But I would think that, for me at least, if I look at a country and if I want to know how on the scale of good to bad it is, I would first and foremost look how it treats people as regards their freedom of religion. You can be certain that if there is a problem and they discriminate or persecute some religions, they have a problem in their democracy, they have a problem in their freedom of speech, they have a problem in any human rights. It's like, for me, the way to start looking at a country if I want to evaluate how good or bad it is. And no country is perfect. No state is perfect, but you have a scale.
No, thank you so much. That is so interesting to understand it in that context, you know. I want to know a little bit more of the Church of Scientology, because for me, it's totally new. And for listeners out there who doesn't know what it's about, maybe you can share a bit about what it's about, its philosophies, and how it contributes to peace building, and how it is contextualized in the context of interfaith or freedom of religion and belief.
Church of Scientology is, first of all, Scientology is in what we call the applied religious philosophy, meaning that it's a way, it's discoveries about life, about yourself as a spiritual being, and ways to discover more, and that you will apply in life, or you will apply with helping people, and that would get result. Applied religious philosophy. It's not based on a dogma. It's, you know, the first principle is what is true for you is what is true, and you need to observe before to decide if it's true or not. So that's the way you study Scientology. You will observe if it works or if it does not work, and you will accept it only if it works. And the truth is it works, but you can only experience it by yourself. It has been developed since the 1950s, by a man called L. Ron Hubbard, with the founder of Scientology, and wrote many books about it, many literature, gave many conferences. We have more than 3,000 conferences of the founder. And you would study it and learn more about life and learn ways to learn more about yourself. And so the link with peace building is, first of all, when you learn about yourself and you become more aware of your spiritual nature, you tend to be more good. It's weird, you know, not good in the sense of fitting with the society, good in the sense of wanting to make good and helping others and being a good person, you know. So that helps people. But in addition, the church has a lot of programs that exist. I talked about human rights education, drug prevention, moral values based on common sense, fighting against illiteracy and helping people being literate. A lot of programs of that kind of topics, which we believe can help the humanity to get away with the past bad experiences. And we work very hard on it. We have campaigns that are all over the world and very efficient. And so that's a way for us to bring more peace. Interfaith has always been part of the Scientology journey. We have been working with other religions since day one, and we have been very active in bringing religion together for making this place a better place. So it's in our DNA. We work every day with other religions. We are very open. Any church is open to other religions if they want to come and work with us, or even if we can help them a way or another, we do it. I mean, you live in South Africa, you should go and visit. We have a wonderful church near Johannesburg with a big castle that you can visit, and you can ask me, and I will connect you with them. And I'm sure they have been helping a lot of people from other religions recently. You know, I think that more than 4,000 Christian priests went to the Church of Scientology there to be trained on some of the programs we have that could help them. And they did not change their religion. They just came and we worked together. So, and of course, if people want to know more, they can go on the internet. You know, there is even a TV channel for the ones who don't like to read, and it's called Scientology.tv. and there are like hundreds of hours of videos explaining what is Scientology, what Scientologists do all over the world, and what what are our beliefs, how our churches. You can visit churches online. There is a lot of stuff on that website, and it would save me a lot of time talking if you go there.
Before we get more into this conversation on religion, I just want to go back to your journey a bit, right? And you said you were the president of the European Interreligious Forum for Religion and Freedom of Belief, and you were the vice president of the European Office of the Church of Scientology for Public Affairs and Human Rights. So can you tell us a little bit? I know it's a long journey. There's a lot that have happened in your life. But maybe share a little bit of that time that you spent there in these roles, and what was it like, and lessons you learned, best practices as well.
Sure. So let's start by my first how to say my primary role is to represent the Church of Scientology, and that's a full-time position, and so. I work a lot on, in Scientology, we have programs that are, we engage with society to make it a better society as we can. So I would represent the church, for example, regarding the programs that we have tackling drug prevention. We have huge programs on drug prevention because we believe that we need to help young generations to not go into drugs. And so it's an international program that we have everywhere, and I would go to meet with lawmakers or decision makers and present the program, see if we can get allies or other religious community that we can work with, and they would work with us in doing drug prevention. And I do a lot of this, and in fact, not only in Europe. I'm working with African countries, I'm working with Asian countries, etc. So I would do that. We have programs on human rights too, like education to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and I would help these programs to be done everywhere when I can. I would meet with the European institutions too, talking about freedom of religion, and that's so a lot of things like this. Or I would work with scholars who want to study Scientology and help them with giving them what they need to study Scientology, religious scholars. Or I would meet with, in some countries where we would have problems, I would try to meet with authorities and try to solve the problems with communication. Because as I said, most of the time the problems are due to lack of communication, lack of understanding. And so that's my daily work, mainly in Europe, but not only. Then you talked about the European Interreligious Forum for Religious Freedom, which I formed at the beginning of the 2010s. And that's different. It's people from different religions. We started with, I think, there was me, there was a Sikh, and we were all from Europe. There was a Muslim, there was a Mormon, there was a Catholic, a priest from Italy, there was some Protestants, there were a rabbi. And the idea we had was, let's get together and try to advocate for each other. And that's what I started talking about. If I would defend my religion only, people would think, well, he's defending his religion, so he has a kind of vested interest in it. So I can have credibility, but not so much. But if it's somebody else who defends my religion, but he's not from this religion, the impact looks better. It's like the guy has no interest. And same for me. I would defend his religion. I have no personal interest in defending it, so it works better. And of course, if you are 10 instead of 1, and people are from different religions, and they come together to defend one of them, the impact is far stronger. So that's what we started to do. And we did that with some bad legislation which were in some European countries or at the Council of Europe. And we had like interesting successes by being together, things that we would never have been able to do by ourselves. But being together, we could activate so many people because we all had our own connections. But together, it was so many connections that it looked like we were everywhere. And we were everywhere, because there are people everywhere who would stand for the people who have troubles with freedom of religion or belief. So that's what we did. And then, so I said we had successes, failures sometimes, but a failure is only temporary. It's if you continue at the end, you will succeed. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot from other people. I learned a lot from this journey. I learned that if you want to have an impact and have a success, it's not only just naming and shaming, not only doing one action expecting that it will succeed. No. If you take one issue, you need to work hard on it, and you need to not stop until it's done. You need to activate as many people as possible. You need to engage. You need to try to meet the decision makers. You need to engage scholars. You need, and I could give you example if you want, but that's what I learned, and then I started having a lot of friends in that area of religious freedom, and friendship is so important, because you can call each other and ask for help. And one thing that I want to say, I want to give you an example, very down to earth, of how it works. 2015, there were some terrorist attacks in Belgium. And I was at a restaurant selling kebab, and I was waiting for my kebab, and then the TV in the restaurant was talking about the attacks, and the person serving the food was looking at the TV, and he was a Muslim, and he was saying, "Oh, it's terrible, now with this terrorist attacks by Muslims, we are going to be even more discriminated against than before." And he was very desperate, And the day after, I was having a conference on religious freedom where I was going to speak. So I told him, "Look, I understand your despair, but I want you to know that there is still people who will defend you, and I'm one of them. I make a difference between the terrorists that did that and you as a Muslim. And I will defend your right to practice, and I will defend your right to not be discriminated against, whatever these crazy people have done." And the guy was super touched, and he said, "Oh, that's incredible. But who are you?" And I told him, "Well, I'm a Scientologist, but I believe in freedom of religion or belief." And then he told me, "Oh, that's incredible. I'm going to see my community and tell them that Scientologists are so good." And I realized that, I did not do that for this, but in defending him, he would say good things about my religion. So I came back to my community, and one day I was having a speech with Scientologists, and I told them, "Look, actually, you should forget about defending yourself. Go and defend others. And if you do that, you will receive the reward, and they will say you are good people. If you defend yourself, nobody will say you're good people. But if you defend others, they will do." So that's the way to do it. And that's how it works, And I really believe it's true. If we act good for others, at the end, everybody wins. It's a win-win game, And so, yeah.
Totally agree with you, because being, especially in the interfaith space, you have to be the example, right? Like Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. So it's like, if you are going to promote peace or you have to be neutral in the whole thing. But at the same time, it's like you like there's a lot of stigma and there's a lot of people that are afraid to defend other religions, and I don't know why. Probably could it be because of the being afraid of the politics around it, or being afraid of that you betraying your religion. Well, some people see it that way, right? But what are your thoughts on this? Because for me, it's like right is right, wrong is wrong. And as you said, you can discriminate between terrorists and, the people that are the normal civilians in that religion that are doing good in this world. And not everything is bad, because there's equal good and bad in every situation. So what were your thoughts around that?
Well, yeah, it's something that you run into when you're in the field of freedom of religion or belief. Some people, they don't want to associate with others because they feel that they will give power to other religions that are competitors. And I believe it's completely wrong. First of all, because if you really believe in your religion, you are not afraid of meeting others who believe differently. You are yourself, and you are not afraid to learn more about others. It's our world, and I don't know any religion which says don't even speak to other people. It's so I think it's wrong, and more than this, it's at the end you will pay it, not in the good sense, because I said it, but if you don't defend others, what will happen the day you are the one in troubles? And you will go to others and say, please help me. And others will tell you, well, why should I help you? Did you help me before? And that's the point. I'm not saying that we should do that. People can do mistakes, but that will happen. So I think it's wrong. I think we live on earth and there are many religions, and they all have good things to learn. They all have things that we can learn from as individuals. Does not mean that we would change religion, and I don't even care, maybe everyone who has a religion thinks that his religion is better than the other. And maybe they are all right, or maybe one is right and the other are wrong. Who am I for this, But if something can help, if something can teach me something, why should I withdraw from it? No, we need to communicate. More communication is more understanding. And so I don't think we will win anything by being separate. Does not mean that we need to agree on the theology. It does not mean that we need to abandon our own religion. Does not mean that we have to mix religion, Not at all. Just, respect religious beliefs of others and understand that you are not God. And so who are you to judge what they believe? And at the end, I think if we have a concept of God, is the God for everyone. Even if it's God's, it's you choose the God you want, but all this, we are all human and we are all spiritual beings, and we need to live together. So I'm not sure it answers completely your question, but I think, and then, people can be what we call extremist or radical, not only violent, like, of course, you have terrorists and crazy people like this, but some people might be very radical. If radical means strongly in religion, I don't care. It's fine with me. If it means rejecting anybody else, I think it's wrong. It's your right. You want to reject people, it's your right. But at the end, I don't think it will bring you something good. And putting people around a table, or even better, having people working on common projects together, creates friendship. And when you become friends, you start understanding the people around you. And that's the better medicine against radicalization. No better medicine. And that's why I work a lot on interfaith. And that's what United Religions Initiative does, putting people from different faiths working together on projects for good. And that works. That's super efficient.
No, that's wonderful. I also resonate with that. And that's the reason why I'm in the interfaith space as well. Because I've been here for 13 years, and what I've learned is also that principle of friendship. When people come together on a certain common goal, whether it's about climate change or it's about peace building or some topic or something, and it brings people together. And when they come together, the walls almost like we don't have walls between us anymore. The barriers are broken down. And, it's these walls and barriers that prevents us from connecting to our humanity, irrespective of our religion. And so it's just a nicer model and space to work with, because you interact with people, you have friendship, you have that sense of feeling of love, of peace, and you're working together towards a common goal that helps the community, that serves the community. So I think that's very beautiful, the principle of friendship that you mentioned. Just to elaborate on this grassroots level of initiatives and this principle of friendship, I would like to talk a little bit more about your work being the chair at the United Religions Initiative. And I know for our listeners who don't know much about United Religions Initiative, there's a lot to read on the internet, but it's the world's largest grassroots interfaith organization, and it's present in over 110 countries, and it comprises of over 1,200 affiliated groups. And that's quite amazing, right? So can you share a bit of your work in URI and being a chair as well?
Yeah, sure. So you gave the numbers, and the numbers, I agree, are a bit impressive. I think, first of all, the concept is brilliant. United Religions Initiative has been founded in 2000 following a lot of discussions by a man called Bishop Bill Swing. He was the Bishop of California at the time, from the Episcopal Church, and he had the idea first he had been asked by the United Nations to give an interfaith service in San Francisco. And so he had the idea, because it was super successful, that he could bring religions together in the same way that United Nations bring countries together. And he started meeting with religious leaders, the Dalai Lama, the Pope, etc. And I realized that it was not so easy, because, these religious leaders, and not only the ones I talked about, they did not have maybe the time or the willingness to do that. So the idea shifted. And he said, why don't we do it with the people? Meaning anyone could decide to create an interfaith group. And whatever is his position in a religion, if you are just a Christian, but you want to work with others, let's create a group. And that's how it started. And this is a very powerful idea, because leaders and opinion leaders, you can find them everywhere. It's not just religious leaders, you have young people in a village in Africa who are leaders in their community. And if they start working on an interfaith project, people will follow them. So you need to get these leaders, give them the possibility to be empowered. And that's what URI does. It empowers people. If you want to create a group, a URI group, which we call Cooperation Circle, you need to be at least 7 persons and from 3 different religions or spiritual traditions, or indigenous traditions. And we have cooperation circles forming every week and applying to be part of URI, several per week. So it's always growing. We have a network growing all over the world. And it's, I would say that there is an impact on it. You cannot diminish the impact that it does. Of course, you can say it's not enough. The world has not changed completely. There is still violence. The purpose of URI is to have daily interfaith cooperation, to end religiously motivated violence, and to create a culture of peace, justice, and healing for all living beings and the earth. So it's a huge purpose, and with so many groups, we can say that we are moving ahead in that direction, but we still have violence, religiously motivated violence. Culture of peace is not everywhere for sure, etc., etc. So, but it's growing, and I really believe that if we don't do it, nothing will happen. So we have to start somewhere. My work on this, I'm the chair of the Global Council, so we have a board of trustees comprised of 36 trustees. It's a huge board from all over the world. I never seen a board like this, because normally you think of trustees as people with a lot of money or with a lot of experience in legal compliance, etc. I mean, we have some, but that's not the criteria. The trustees are elected by the regions, and they are grassroots people, which makes it very weird, very strange, but very beautiful. They come from the grassroots, and they are the governing body of URI. Then we have a lot of staff who are wonderful people dedicating their life to interfaith cooperation and the purpose of URI. And we work together pretty well. And so my role as chair of the Global Council is to coordinate with the executive director and make sure that we follow the strategy that has been set by the Global Council, made of grassroots people, and help as I can, in that coordinations. The trustees are very involved also in practical things. They are not only looking at the compliance or the budget, they want to be involved. So it's special, they help, they work together, we work with the staff, we try to give guidance to all the cooperation cycles all over the world, work on strategy, make sure that our strategy is efficient, that we respond to that we serve the cooperation circles, not with money. We don't give money to cooperation circles. That's not our purpose. We help them connecting themselves. If some cooperation circles work on a certain topic, we will connect them with other cooperation circles doing the same, so they can help each other, and many things that can help grow the network and vitalize the network. And we do a lot on violence prevention. We have training programs on violence prevention, training programs on many things. And we work a lot with indigenous people, whether it's in Latin America or in Africa or in the Indonesia, Philippines, etc. So I have a role of course, representing URI. A few days ago, I was receiving a prize on behalf of URI, not myself, given it's a Guru Nanak Interfaith Prize at the Hofstra University in New York. And so I would represent URI proudly, and that was nice. Or I would do coordination with the staff, with the trustees, and of course, things much less interesting, like making sure the budget is respected.
No, that's wonderful. Wow, it sounds very complex, the whole structure of it, but at the same time, it's showing us that we are stronger in numbers, and when we work together, we achieve more, even on the grassroots level. So that's amazing. Just for our listeners to know that I was going to ask you about the Guru Nanak Interfaith Prize, because I did read about it. That prize is an international award established in 2006 by the Hofstra University in New York. And it's actually quite an award. It's to honor individuals or organizations that make significant contributions to dialogue and understanding among religious groups. And it's inspired by Guru Nanak, and he's the founder of Sikhism and a champion of spiritual unity and equality among all human beings. And so I think it's amazing that you or I won this prize because it emphasizes the importance of tolerance, mutual respect, and collaboration among spiritual traditions in a world, often marked with religious divisions. And this award is given every 2 years to celebrate concrete efforts to promote interfaith peace. And so it recognizes organizations and individuals who help build lasting bridges between communities. And so it's amazing that URI has been recognized to receive this award. And I did read up that in 2008, the Dalai Lama had won this award. So that's amazing. Congratulations to URI.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And yeah, that was very meaningful for us, and it's given by a university in New York, but it's also done in collaboration with some group of Sikhs living there in New York, and who are, I've been working with Sikhs for many, many years, and they have wonderful communities all over the world. So it's always a pleasure to be associated with them. Honestly, I have so many friends in that community, in that religion, and they are one of my favorites. I don't want to say I have favorites because it would not be true, but they are like human rights defenders. I would say human rights fighters, and they don't back off from anything, and so I think being associated with Guru Nanak is an honor.
That's amazing. So because we're on the subject of grassroots levels, right, for interfaith unity towards peace building, I feel like at international level we can't control what happens because religion is influenced by so many things, whether it's politics, land and oil issues, it's a lot of things that's happening within a country. It's legislations, it's policies and stuff. So for me, grassroots levels is what brings more progress in interfaith unity. But I want to hear your thoughts on what you think is the real impact. Do you see that it lies at grassroots levels, or is it at international levels, or it's a bit of both?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. First of all, so I come from the Church of Scientology, and I need to say that it might not be seen as this, but Scientology is a grassroots movement. Scientologists are active in their community. So I was used to grassroots activities. I was talking about drug prevention. Drug prevention is not something you do by talking to the president of the republic of that or this country. Of course, you can do it, and the decision makers can help, but it's not the way you do it. You go into the communities and you give conferences, you distribute documentation, you make sure that kids in schools are warned against the dangers, you educate people at the grassroots level. So I was very used to that kind of grassroots activities and seeing that, if you want to get the crime rates going down, it's not by putting a law. It's by going into the communities and make sure that people understand that there are better things to do than committing crimes. So it looks like a bit nice talk, but it's not. You can make a change by going into communities. And that's what I've been doing even before I worked on religious freedom or interfaith. Then it is the same. When you would do grassroots activities together with different religions, you bring so much more people, and you also give a good example. When you have people from different religions who go into a community and work into an environment project, people see it and they see, oh, you have Hindus, Sikhs, Christians, Muslims together. That's weird. And that makes an impact and they want to join. Anyone with common sense will join. And so the impact is bigger and the change are made at the grassroots levels. It does not mean that you need not to engage at upper levels, if I can say, like decision makers. Yes, of course, because, you can find opinion leaders there too, and what they will say will be heard by many people. And sometimes it's needed to have good legislation passed and bad legislations combated and make sure it does not pass. So that is also something you need to do. So yes, there is this thing that needs to be done, which is a balance between grassroots and decision makers or leaders. Nevertheless, I think the grassroots is the most important. Nothing can stop the grassroots. Politicians, they change. Grassroots, they will be always here. So I think it's more powerful. That being said, let's talk about interfaith. So you can have an organization that has only religious leaders making statements. I mean, that's good if the statement has an impact. I don't see it as powerful as the grassroots model, and that's what I like a lot in URI, for example, is we work with people of any level. We don't care, you do good, you're with us, and we do it together. And that is something that I've seen, on a pragmatic view, I've seen working. And I'm interested in things that work. I'm not interested in talks. I'm not interested in, even if I talk a lot, I'm sorry, but I'm interested in success. We need to have results. We need to change that world, not just talking about changing it.
That is so true. I mean, we can talk a lot, right? And I'm grateful for this conversation. But also we have to turn our dialogues into action. So maybe I just want to branch out a little bit to ask you, so talking is also important, right? Because it brings us to a place of understanding and it breaks down that bridges and it creates friendship and it also creates that space to listen to the other, welcome the other. How can you see interfaith dialogue becoming more action orientated in peace building? It's so that it brings about this resilience in our work. And for me, it's also a way of planting the seeds because, as you mentioned also, failure is there, but it can never be failure if you keep continuing and being persistent. And peace building and interfaith work is like a lifelong process because history has taught us that there will always be religious violence, crimes, and wars. So for me, I see it as planting seeds of peace and love in grassroots levels for a different future and a different outcome that we want to live in. So how do you see, going back to the question, as interfaith dialogue becoming more action-orientated for peace building?
Yeah, first of all, let's stop talking about interfaith dialogue. Let's talk about interfaith cooperation, because dialogue is good, but it's, not enough. And as I said, when people work on a common project, it's more efficient than just people having to talk about their own beliefs. That's what I believe, or at least, you run into sometimes, as you said, people that they don't want to do interfaith dialogue. Why? Because they feel that they would betray their own religion. But they would be okay to work on a project that they like with people who wants to work on the same project. But don't talk about religion, just work together. And then they work together, and after a while, they are able to talk about religion, because they became friends and they have common purpose. So that's the way it works. And you asked me, how can we increase interfaith cooperation and action? First of all, I believe we need to engage youth for sure. And I'm glad you are here, and I need to say that this is something that happens in the world today. There is a lot of young people in interfaith, and that's fantastic. Of course, the young people will last longer than the old people. It's mathematical. So no question, when you work with young people and you give them power, you are sure that you are creating the future. So, of course, it's not to exclude the older people and the elders, because they have a lot to bring. They have maybe more experience, maybe more wisdom, sometimes not. But So we work together also through generations, but it's important that there are young people there also because young people want to be active. They don't want to sit only and talk. They want to create things. They want to change the world. Maybe older people too, but less, I believe, there is this energy of youth which is needed. So engaging young people, giving them power, giving them, not considering them as less able to do things because it's not true, is key. And then we need to have good common projects. So it's a question of being able to give a project that people will agree on, which is good, which is not dividing. We can all agree on it, which is not political. The politics is terrible in the area of religious freedom or interfaith. Because honestly, when you look at the world today, politics is a dividing factor. The left against the right, the extremists against the moderates, whatever is politics is always dividing people. And maybe more today. I don't know if it's more or if it's just the social medias which makes it appearing bigger, but the division exists. And when you do interfaith or religious freedom advocacy, it has nothing to do with politics. Whether you are from the left or the right, does not change the fact that people have the right to freedom of religion. Indigenous have the right to their own beliefs. It's not because you are from the right that you are against them. Unless you politicize religion, and you would say that, Christian is for the right and indigenous is for the left. It has nothing to do with it. So we need to avoid anything political. I mean, individually, people have the right to their own political beliefs, no problem. But when you enter into religion and interfaith, no politics. For me, it's very important. Maybe people will disagree, but for me, I don't care left, right. I'm defending freedom of religion for all. And I want people from the left and from the right to defend them with me. In interfaith, I don't care if you are from the left or the right. I don't care. I want you to work with people of all the faiths so that we can create together a better world. And please find projects that are not political in the sense of, politicians. Yeah, of course, everything could be seen as political. If you want to change something, it's a political act for some people. But I think we understand each other. I'm saying that we need to avoid creating new divisions. We need to work together for common purposes that people can agree on.
No, that is well said. I totally resonate with what you're saying. So just to bring it back to the $1 million question, right? We had a lot of conversations about freedom of religion and belief and interfaith as well. So I'm going to ask you the question. We already covered most of the things, but I want you to summarize it and give your message here. Do you think peace is possible in religion? And I'm asking it because we've lived like centuries of history of religious wars and crimes. And it's almost like humanity is not learning from its past mistakes, or it's almost, maybe it's more complicated than we think, or it's probably that there would never be peace in religion. I don't know. I'm here to learn and unravel this, because being in interfaith for so long, it's a work in progress, but also we are trying to change the narrative of religion to a more positive one. So in the context of today's world, do you think peace is possible in religion?
Well, yeah, that's an interesting question, and the answer is definitely yes. But I need to develop a bit about it, Yes, true. I mean, the world has been forever with wars, conflicts and violence. So if you consider that experience tells you the truth, then you would say it will be always the same. But the beauty of religion and the beauty of, in general, hope is that you don't only consider experience. You believe that as a spirit, you can bring new realities. And there is nothing, in fact, that prevents humanity and the people to create a world without violence, without wars, without criminality. So that is the purpose of Scientology, for example, for the world. A world without wars, without criminality, where people can go to higher levels of spirituality. But that is also the purpose of URI, when we say we want to end religiously motivated violence. So if I would not believe in it, why would I do this? And of course, you need to realize that you are talking of something completely new that did not exist, at least on Earth, on what we know about Earth. I think there has not been one day on Earth where there was no war somewhere. So yes, it's a new paradigm, and we are trying to create something that never existed. And the beauty of it is, if you believe that you are a spiritual being, then you know that it's possible, because we are the one creating the reality of tomorrow. And I talked about success or failure. We could say that until now we failed because there are still wars, there are still violence, there are still all the things that we would like to change. But I said failure is temporary. Failure is because you did not push enough. Failure is because you did not work enough. Failure is what happens before you succeed. So, there is hope. Hope is not like a way of thinking. Hope is a creation of reality. You create hope, in yourself and outside. So there is hope because we create hope, and there is a lot of work to do, and there is a lot of work from good people to do. But I really believe we can do it, and I really believe that one day we will be able, and based on will we work hard enough for this, to have a completely new planet, a completely new paradigm on Earth, and we will have to learn how to live with it and to nurture it and to keep with it, learn from the past experiences. But if I would not believe in the fact that it is possible, I would be doing something else in my life, and I believe in it, and it's not only a good wish, it's my life, and I believe it's the life of other people too.
No, that's beautiful. I resonate to that because, I'm also an architect. So I'm a visionary, right? So I believe in these things. And if you look at a lot of youth, they are tired of living in a world of violence and conflict. A lot of them are just exhausted from it because it has so much repercussions, not only on human dignity, but also on the environment as well. And, it's not the world we want to live in, and it's not the world we are looking forward to. So I think it's very beautiful what you said. It's that we are realistic about the challenges we have, but we are also a bit idealistic in a positive way to create a different reality for ourselves. And it's something we all have to work and come together and do it together, because in isolation, we don't make much progress, but together, working together with unity, we can, right? So I think that's very beautiful. Thank you for that. And thank you for being here on this podcast. Thank you for sharing your time with me, for sharing your thoughts and views. I truly appreciate it. I hope it was fulfilling for you as well. So thank you so much, Eric Roux. It was wonderful to have you on this podcast. And I wish you all the best in your journey in the interfaith space and freedom of religion and belief.
Thank you, Marilyn. That was my pleasure.
Okay. So thank you. So, hi everybody. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Eric Roux. He's doing some amazing work in the interfaith space and freedom of religion belief. And I just had to have him on my podcast to have a conversation about things that matters, and especially around the topics of what he's engaged in, which is religion and freedom of religion and belief. So I hope you're enjoying my podcast so far. I just want to say thank you for the support to all those that are joining in, listening, and supporting me. I truly appreciate it. And these podcasts are meant to inspire people, empower people, but also have meaningful conversations that will shift society into seeing a different perspective on subjects that contributes to peace building. So thank you for the support, and look out more for more conversations.